We come all the way from LA just for this event, because this is the one event where this is the only place in the world you're going to see this many Millers together and this many Millers running around the track. It's fun just to be on the track and watching these Millers pass you.
But where did you find this car, and what's the history of this specific car?
It's a lot of history with this car, and luckily I spent the last year and a half researching every single bit of history. I found all kinds of great stuff. The car was acquired by friends of mine back in the 80s. There was a guy named Chris Eggsgart who lived in Los Angeles, and he collected old race cars. He kind of had a race car junkyard. And so a guy I know named Jim Lattin bought it back in the 80s from him. And then my friend Pete Eastwood worked on the car. And so they wanted to take it to an event in 1993 at Laguna Seca. So they restored the car and took it to Laguna Seca, ran it once, and then after that it went into a warehouse and never came out again. It just kind of sat there collecting dust all those years. So 93 was the last year it ran. So I was able to do some horse trading and with Jim Lattin, and I was able to get the car. And I think he wanted me to have the car because he knew that I would get it out, stretch its legs, and run around. And I was lucky enough to find all kinds of great history. I found Ralph De Palma's old archive. So originally this was Ralph De Palma's race car. It was originally a 1924 single-seat Miller. And then in 1930, Indianapolis changed the rules. It had to be a two-man car. So he took it back to Miller, and they widened it to be a two-man car. And so he went to Indy 31, he couldn't qualify. It ended up going to Indy about 12 times over the years, all the way into the 40s. Different motors, different drivers. Miller sold it in 1935, and it went to Indy in 36 with a driver named Harry Banks. And it just kept racing till then. And so that's the story of the car. The car eventually was sold. I've tracked every owner of the car, and it was eventually sold to a couple people, then ended up back in Los Angeles. And that's how it ended up.
It looks like it's been well treated. Did you do anything to the car since you got it?
Did a lot, yeah. The car never had the correct grille. It never had the grille that Ralph De Palma had. So we set out to make the original grille. And all we had was pictures. There's no surviving grille. It was all hand-formed by a friend of mine. And I think it turned out really good. It's not done yet. But when you see it next year, it'll be finished.
And what about the engine? What do you got in?
The engine's a 122 Miller, straight 8, and Ralph De Palma had punched it out. It's about close to 180 cubic inches. So it's a big Miller, and it's still in that configuration. In fact, the motor has never been gone through since De Palma built it. It's still running. It's still in original condition as it was then.
There's something about the craft that went into construction and building these engines.
Yeah, 100%. And Ralph De Palma, he worked on all this stuff. He rebuilt his own motors. He modified his own motors. So he did a lot of work to that motor to really dial it in, get it running great.
And then I have to ask you because this car I recognize. You had that for some time, right?
Yeah. We finished it last year, and I've always loved the Gilmore and the Pines races. Got loud. So, for people who don't know about these races, this was the first stock car race ever. Basically, Ford was trying to promote their new V8. So they gave a bunch of famous race car drivers brand new 33 Ford Roadsters. And they said, "Hey, we're gonna race these," and they raced them against other cars too. They raced them against Chevys and Pontiacs and Studebakers, but anyone who had a brand new car, they could strip it down and take it out. So all the race car drivers got their cars, stripped them down, painted the graphics on them. And some did some modifications, but the car had to appear stock. The engine had to appear stock. And so, essentially, these are pretty much stock cars as you can buy them at the dealership, and they race the heck out of them. I mean, Mines Field, which is now LAX, they raced. They did a Targa La Floria race. They did raced at McGilmore. Several drivers died. I mean, they rolled over and they died. But super fun. It must have been amazing to see all these stock cars in action. And so none of the original cars survived because after the races, they had to give them back to the Henry Ford because these were brand new cars. So they needed the parts, the trunks, or whatever wasn't damaged. It was still okay. They used them for promotions for a while in the dealerships, and then they got recycled back into parts. So a few of us diehards have built replicas of the original cars, exact paint and everything. It's got a 1933 flathead V8 in it, exactly the way that came from the factory. This one's neat. Babe Stapp was one of my favorite racing drivers, and so I really wanted to build the Babe Stapp car. And it's great because Babe Stapp's son is still alive, his granddaughter's still alive, and we were able to get together with them and show him the car. His son, we call him the Bopper, he signed the dash, did autograph on the dash. Babe Stapp's granddaughter should be coming out this weekend. We'll give her a ride around the track. Just super fun. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about connecting with the people, the stories, and just having fun with these cars.
And also keeping history alive and, 100%. Teaching people like you do right now.
Exactly. It's about keeping this history alive because a lot of people don't know. And this was only, we're only talking, 50, 60 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, but people don't really know about it. So it's great to tell the story.